Okay, so just as a wee intro, we're going to work through this little exercise, tracing a photograph, and I've already downloaded the photograph ready to go, so I'm going to launch Illustrator now. Okay, the splash screen for Illustrator is on my other monitor, I'm afraid, so I can't show you that. It changes every 5 minutes, the splash screen that they use. Now you've got a choice here of using, a kind of a template, say this A4 one here, or just opening the photograph and getting stuck in. If you use the template, then it does set up some colours for you. And this is the problem we found with going straight to the photograph. It doesn't really load any colour information at this stage. But I'm going to go straight for the photograph. So open, and had it in my downloads. Sketch background. Okay, I'm just going to roll out of it. So I'm holding the Alt key and rolling the wheel on the mouse. Okay, if you hold the spacebar, you can use the left mouse button to pan. If you hold the Alt key, and the middle mouse button, you can use pan as well. So don't use the Alt button and the left mouse button, that actually kind of duplicates objects. Okay, so watch out for that. So the Alt and middle mouse does your zooming, or spacebar and left mouse button. Okay, now my interface here is a little bit larger than you would find when you first start the software. Okay, I've got it enlarged slightly so that it captures a bit better for the screen capture. Okay, so what I'll do is just quickly show you a few settings changes that can make things a bit more legible. So if you go to Edit, Preferences, let's just go through them one at a time so I don't miss anything. So I didn't change anything on here, on General. I did change the size of the anchors from the default size to size 3. So that's size 1, 2, 3. These can be very, very small on a reasonably high-res screen. They're minute. My screen's only set to 1920 by 1080, but these were very hard to work with. Okay, I didn't change anything on this panel. I did change the units though. So what we want to work with are pixels. Okay, points. A point is, I'm pretty sure it's 1/12 of an inch. Okay, so these are the sizes used in text height. It could be 1/24 of an inch actually. I'd better check that, but I would work in pixels or millimeters, otherwise it gets a bit tricky to control things. You're not sure what's going on. So I'll change it to pixels. Okay, I didn't change anything on here. Smart guides are very useful. Keep those switched on. They help you line things up. You see those in Photoshop and InDesign. Didn't change anything on slices or hyphenation or plugins. This is where you can make the interface a bit chunkier. So the default is to have it on small. I've put it up to halfway, but the big one is very, very crude. Everything's a bit over the top. Okay, didn't change anything on performance. I did change file handling, and I chose a different location for my temporary files, for my recovery files. So I chose the desktop, you can see here. So you can change where that file goes. Very difficult to find it otherwise, and it's going to do a save every couple of minutes. Okay, and I think that was it. I didn't change anything else. So okay that. If you change the size of the interface, it forces you to restart the software. So you have to close in Illustrator and restart it to get the bigger text and the bigger icons. Okay, good. Right, what I'm going to do before I go and do anything else is try and get a couple of colours into here, okay, because this is where I kind of stumbled on the previous attempt at this. I've not actually got any colour information at all to work with, so what I'm going to do is try and create a new, and not letting me do a new colour swatch. So okay, it's kind of coming to life now. So if I double click here, okay, and I'm going to choose a colour, I'm going to choose a blue that I'm going to use later on. Okay, now hopefully if I click this and create a new swatch, it's going to use that colour and create a swatch for me. Okay, so new swatch, so it's picked up the colour. Okay, let's call this light blue. Okay, I'm just going to try that again, see if I can create another colour. Let's just see that happen. Let's do another version of blue. Let's make it a little different hue. Let's go down here. Okay, and then create a new swatch from that one. Will it do the same? So let's call this medium blue. Okay, that's good. We've got something to work with, and that was the problem I was having before. I didn't have any colours anywhere. Right, so let's have a look at the colour guide, and what it'll do, it should base this on the blue that we've just created. So that's where it is there, and it's saying that if you were using this particular harmony, then these are the other shades that go with it and will work all together. If you just want to stick with that blue, that's your darker shades and this is your lighter tints. So if we change the harmony rule, so if we have let's go for the monochromatic. Where is that one? There we go, monochromatic. Do you see how that works? It's kind of keeping it based on that particular blue, and it's saying these are the colours that are comfortable to work with. So it's kind of handy, kind of clever. It saves you kind of just doing sliders yourself and trying to guess the colours. So I really quite like it. Okay, hooray! I think we're off to a better start, colours wise. Right, let's get busy with the actual drawing stuff. Let's see, we'll take it from there. So I'm just going to force this back to black and white. Shouldn't affect these, so we've just got black and white. Right, there's a, if I move this, let me just see if I can just drag it and move it. You see there's a black rectangle sitting there. Okay, that is, the black rectangle is called your artboard, and effectively that's your desk. So at the moment my piece of work is much bigger than my desk, so I really can't work on it properly. Okay, if I hold the Alt key and roll the mouse back a tiny bit, okay, I want to make the artboard bigger than the image that's come in. Okay, so if I go to File, Document Setup, okay, I want to edit the artboard. Okay, and all you need to do is just drag this out till it's a bit bigger than the photograph. So it allows us then to kind of spill off the edge without worrying too much. We don't have to necessarily click onto the edge of the image. We can spill off and be a bit messier if we want to be. Okay, you can make this as big as you want, and you're able to place stuff that you want to use or maybe try out and drop in and drop out. So it's your working area, so it can be much bigger if you want it to be. So you can use this area for temporary stuff. Okay, so layers in this software are a little bit different to Photoshop in that they automatically record separate objects that are on that layer. Okay, so if I pop this down, you'll see that it kind of cascades. So I'm going to rename layer 1 to the photo. Okay, and the blue is the shape around the edge. Okay, similar to InDesign, it kind of picks up on the the kind of layer shape, sorry, the layer color. Okay, generally we won't need to see inside the layers, so we can just keep them shut. Okay, let's create a new layer. Oops, too many. Just one. Okay, I'm going to double click it so I can change its name, and this is going to be my sky. So I'll call this number 1. This is my creations. Okay, so this kind of yucky grey fog isn't very presentable, so what we'll do is we'll just create a rectangle on this layer that we can fill with a gradient. Okay, so we should be working now on the sky layer. Okay, and we could use the rectangle tool, or we could draw our own shape. Let's go with the rectangle tool. Okay, I'm just making it bigger than the photo just to make sure, and if I let go, so do you notice it's already filled? Okay, so that is the fill color and this is the stroke color. Okay, at the moment there is no stroke color, so I'm going to click on that and I'm going to force black and white so that we get a black line around the rectangle. It's difficult to see this far away. If I zoom in, you start to see there is a black line there. Okay, we just have to kind of trust that it's going to be there because it's quite a big image and the lines are very thin. Okay, if we didn't want to have it filled, you use this little red slash here and that says no fill. Okay, so filled, no fill, or use a gradient. And actually we want to use a gradient, so I'm going to click on the gradient there. The gradient's running the wrong direction, so we can change its angle here. You can kind of rotate them as well if you want a free kind of angle, but here we just need 90. Okay, so the darker part of the sky is going to be at the top. Okay, but we don't want black, that's going to be pretty oppressive. What we want to do is get blue into there instead of the black. Now if I drag that light blue onto that circle, we should get a blue. Okay, this little diamond marks the middle of the transition, so it's by here it's 50% white and 50% blue. I would like the white to extend a bit further up nearer the top, so you drag the diamond to where you want the gradient to change to the 50%. Okay, so that's probably going to work a bit better. You can come back and change this at any point, you can tweak it. Okay, good. That was a lot better, a lot more painless than the previous one, because we were just struggling to get a colour to use. It was just resisting completely. Okay, back to layers, and we won't need to see the sky for a while, so let's just switch that off. We can bring it back later on, and we want a new layer now, and we're going to trace around the flats. Okay, because they're the furthest away objects. So we've got a tall block of flats, and there's also these kind of 3-4 story ones in the distance as well. So plus for a new layer, and I'll rename this to 2 flats. The green is good, that's going to be nice and visible, so I'll keep the layer color green. Okay, and this time instead of the rectangle we need to use a pen tool because we're going to draw our own shape. Okay, now I don't want it filled with a gradient. Okay, so I'm just going to force black and white again. Okay, now watch what happens when we start using the pen tool here. I'm going to zoom in closer, so it's Alt and roll the mouse, and somewhere behind that clump of vegetation the building starts. Okay, I'm not sure where it is, it doesn't really matter. accuracy is not super important here, it's more just getting a bit of practice. Okay, so I'm just going to start my shape here. Okay, and if I hold the Alt key, I can get a horizontal line. You can also, there is a gentle kind of snap to horizontal and vertical as well. There is a gentle kind of snapping going on, and I think the edge of the flats is roughly in this area, so I'm just going to click about there. It's a bit hard to tell. Okay, I'm a bit far off there. I think I need to go back a little bit, so let's just come back a bit further. I need to go forwards a bit further now. Let's say, right, that's the last chance. I'm not going to change it again. So I'm going to come to here. I'm holding shift so I get a vertical line. Okay, and can you see what's happening? It's now we've got 3 points. It automatically wants to fill the shape. So let's say no thanks, no fill just yet. Let's get it drawn and then we'll add the fill. Okay, now if for some reason you stop the line there, it's no problem. You can pick up from that point and the line continues automatically. Okay, so we're, whoops, didn't look like I did pick it automatically there. Let's make sure it says anchor. Okay, so we should be continuing that same line. Okay, I'm not going to try and draw all this detail, I'll be here all day, so I'm just going to roughly go to the corner here, hold shift, sorry, hold the space bar so I can pan along. I'm going to go to about here. There is a little gap there that I want to draw. So you can see the guide, the automatic guide coming in there, the pink line. It's quite helpful. Okay, pink line again for vertical. Okay, let's go to this corner, over to here. I've on purposely missed that bit out. We're going to come back to that in a second. Okay, let's go down to here. Okay. Now I've just got to kind of guess where the bottom of where the roof of the other flats is. So round about there, I think we'll do. We'll go off onto the artboard. Okay, and if I come over here, you can see a pink line appears when I'm in line with the first point. So it's always looking for, you know, where you started your object. So if we come up here, it will close the shape. Okay, so I said we'd come back to this bit and add a bit of detail in. Okay, I'm on purposely going to start this a bit rough. Okay, so I'll use the pen tool again. I'm going to start just about here, go into that corner, along that edge. It should be parallel with that, so I'm just trying to make it look parallel. But instead of going through, I can actually click on the path and it will automatically kind of join me on. So when it says path, you're able to kind of fuse a connection there. Okay, if you get a situation like this and you want to tidy things up, okay, you click on the line that needs tidied, find the eraser, hold that button down, and you're looking for the scissors. Okay, now we could drag the anchor there, but you can use the scissors here to look for an intersection, and that breaks the object. Okay, so we'll use that again, we'll use the scissors again, but this time it's this line that wants broken. So click on the object, scissors, use that intersection as a breakpoint, and use this intersection as a breakpoint, and we should then be able to pick out this middle bit. And goodbye. So that's a bit tidier. It hasn't made a clean connection here though at either end. Okay, so what we would do there to turn that into a continuous line is join them together. So click this one, hold shift, click this one, object, path, join. Okay, and that's about my level of editing with Illustrator, to be honest. Like I say, I don't use it very much, but you know, bare minimum for me with this one. Okay, so we've got a fully closed object now that's sitting above the sky. If we stroke, it's already stroked, it's got a line around it, but it doesn't have a fill. So if we fill it, we can see it on its background now, and we're already starting to look, you know, a bit more interesting. You know, it's got that kind of ominousness to it. You know, it's like, I'm forceful, I'm powerful. Okay. So we don't need to see either of these now. We can start looking for the next level or the next layer coming towards us. So a new layer. So this is going to be broken down into quite a few layers. This one works well, but in your wee exercise, you know, 4 layers would be sufficient. You don't have to go crazy with it. So let's call this 3, and we'll call this wall. Okay, there's quite a strong wall top there that we'll put in. Okay, so we want the pen again. Blue is a bit dark, but we'll probably get away with it. It's not a big object, this one. Okay, so let's put this in as a... I'm just going to pick up some of the changes in height, not every single one, because I'll be there all day. Okay, so we'll just do every couple of height changes. Okay, it's already filling in. That's okay. I'll let it go this time. Let's say we go to about there. We go through here somewhere. I can't tell where to because there's too much stuff in the way. Okay, let's go to about there. Okay, so what I'm not going to do is kind of, you know, check everything really detailed. I just want to know that you've got the kind of spirit of the idea. So let's come down and round again. Okay, and anchor, so that's closed. So that one's done. So if we show the flats and the sky, we're starting to build up these objects. Okay, switch off. Then we've got this kind of banking, this slope that's kind of covered in weeds. So let's call this 4 and what do I call it? Banking, yeah. Okay, pink's a nice colour to see on this dark background, so that will work okay. With this one, I'm not going to go all the way down to the ground because it's actually from here to here. So slightly different, this one. Let's just take it through. Okay, now one thing I haven't mentioned is these are individual clicks. Okay, but if I click and hold, and sometimes you'll do this by accident, if you click and hold, you end up in the curve creation. Okay, and that's not what we want to do. Okay, so I can't do anything here. I've got to let it create it, but I can do Control Z and get rid of that portion. Okay, I'll do more about curves when we get to these objects, these kind of whalebone things. But if you click and hold too long, you'll end up generating the curve instead. Okay, this time we're just going to come down to about here and then go back along. Okay, I'm not going to spend ages putting the detail into the steps or anything. I'm just going to come out to here. I'm in line with the point above and then go to the anchor. Okay, that one's done. We're now at the stage where we put the trees in, so we're looking at something with a lot more detail. So we want the trees in now. Oops, use capital letters. Okay, and what I'll do, I'll just draw a portion of one tree and then we'll jump to the finished trees. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll just draw about a third of this one. Okay, so it's the pen tool. Okay, so you're looking to put in a bit more detail now. And you see what happens if you keep the fill on, you can't tell where you're supposed to click. So we hide the fill until we need it. Okay, so we've got some kind of leaves and bushiness here. So what we'll do is just kind of do rough shapes around that. Okay, I'm not going to draw the whole thing because it takes a bit longer, so I'll just draw a bit of it. And if you accidentally end up with curved segments, I think I've already dropped in a couple here, there's definitely one there. It's not a big deal, don't worry about it. As long as it doesn't look really bad, you'll be okay. Okay, so I just took that anchor away there. I want to be able to move that anchor, so if you change to the white tool, you can adjust the path. Okay, so if you do make a mistake, you just notice something that, oh, I really do need to correct that bit, then the path can be adjusted. So overall object is the black cursor, sub object is the white cursor, a bit like it works in InDesign. Okay, so take the black cursor this time and put the fill on, and we're starting to see the trees in front of all the other objects, and that's the idea that, you know, the stacking here determines, you know, the order of display. Okay, what I'll do is leave that one open and just open one where the trees are all done, rather than you sit watching me do all that. So we've got on the desktop, I've got one where the trees are finished. Oh, that's a big jump forward, that's good. Okay, so, you know, I've taken a bit more time, just made them a bit more gnarly. Now we want to work on the monument, and this is where we can introduce drawing with the curves. So 6. Okay, the colour for that layer is very dull, it's grey, it's going to be really difficult to see where I'm going. So we haven't used yellow yet, so let's change this. So I just click that box, change it to yellow. So let's use this for this layer. Okay, don't need to see the trees. Okay, so let's draw around this, what is actually called a scrimshaw. This is a gigantic scrimshaw. So what the sailors did on the whaling boats was find bits of whalebone, and they would sit and carve them, and then, you know, give them as gifts when they got home, things like that. Just like the soldiers did in the trenches, they took, you know, shell casings and hammered them into all sorts of interesting objects. Just something to do, because they were so bored most of the time. It was mayhem or boredom. Okay, so back to the pen, and what I'll do is I'll start just down here. Okay, so I'm going to start with a few line segments, and then when I find a curvy portion, I'm going to change to one of the curves instead. Okay, now I don't want to see the fill happening, so I've got a kind of a lump here. So what I'm going to do is just click above the lump and then try and get the curve to sit cleanly on top of the lump. So that looks quite nice. Okay, if I try and continue that curve, you can see it's not really kicking in. Okay, so what I'm going to do is go back to a line segment, and to stop it curving, you click back on the anchor. Just click once and your line continues, but with a line segment instead. So let's go to here and see if we can put another curve in. Okay, so sometimes you have to do that. You have to kind of just force a little bit of line in to get the angle kind of coming the way you want. So it's not quite fitting there again. You know, this is it's not necessarily one large arc. So we'll just click on the anchor again, go back to line, and see if we can put a curve in now. That's probably going to be a bit more doable. Whoops, went too far. Come on. Okay. Oh, it's tricky. Okay. Not quite fitting up here, so we'll back to line again. Let's do a couple of line segments. We're starting to come over now. Let's try a curve for the very tip of the kind of tooth or whatever it's supposed to be. So that looks quite good. It's not quite fitting inside, but not too bad. I think I'll keep it going. The curve's not kicking in now, but I'll force it to. Okay. Whoops, we've lost our line. Let's start again. So let's put a curve in here, see if we can cut across that. That looks quite good. I think we can come down. I think we'll go back to line, I think. Okay, and then I'm just going to go along the bottom here just to finish the shape. Okay, so that's kind of using these kind of handles to influence the kind of trajectory or the tangentiality of the line, and it works pretty well. Okay, so you know that does look a bit better than if it was just all individual line segments. We've put curves in where we could. Okay, and then filled if needed, etc. Okay, we'll open one where all the monument and what I'm calling the dais. So this kind of stepped rings at the bottom, we would term that a dais. So something important that has a kind of a circular base, it sits on a dais. Okay, monument complete. Okay, there's a bit of line weight added on this already, so please excuse that, but we've only got one more kind of object to put in now, and that's the foreground here. So it's ready to go with the foreground layer. I can't see what I'm drawing, so I'll just switch off these other layers. So here what we'll do is draw this in two portions and then join them together. Okay, so we'll do this from two sides. So I think I'll come on to the drawing from here. Okay, I'm just going to use straight segments instead of curves. Come to about there. I don't want it filled, usual problem. So we'll come down to here and line up. So that's one side done. Let's go straight down the path here. Okay, up to there, and then make our best guess at where the grass finishes and the tarmac starts. Okay, so we've got two objects now on this layer. They're a bit difficult to see. So we've got one here and one here, and if you hold shift you can group these together. So it's object, group. So that makes it a bit easier to control. If you have a look at the drop down on the layer now, you'll see that we've got a group. There shouldn't be a path there. Let me just, I think I've maybe added a little line by accident there, so I think I'll just drag that out onto the bin. So there shouldn't have been that other object, but inside the group we've got our two portions. So we've got both of them, but when we click on one of them they both highlight as a group. Okay, and what we need to do here is fill that. Okay, and that's all the drawing work done. What we'll do is switch everything on, and we'll now look at the line weight situation. So this is the stroke weight. So let's work from the back forwards. So we'll pick the very back object. Okay, the sky doesn't need a stroke weight, it's really the colour that we're interested in there. So we've got the stroke weight here. 0.25 is as thin as it will go, so let's leave that as very faint line in the distance. The next object is the wall, so let's say that's 0.5. Okay, then we've got the banking and the trees are about the same level really, so I'm holding shift and picking the trees as well as the banking. It goes grey because different stroke weights are applied at the moment. Let's say they are going to be 1. Okay, so starting to see them getting a bit stronger now. Okay, the monument and the dais are at the same distance away, so let's double that. Let's go to what line weight of 2, so they're getting much stronger. And then we've got the stuff in the foreground here. Let's make this 4. Okay, so we're giving the depth cue via the thickness of the stroke. Now we can add a bit of life to this. So if we jump back to My Dundee, and we've got our website here, Pimp My Drawing. I'm pretty sure there was somebody on roller skates here, if I remember rightly. There she is. Let's take the roller skater. That would be quite a good thing to have whizzing around our statue. So we'll download the roller skater, and then maybe somebody jogging. We'll have a very active area. We'll have this this woman jogging. Or we've got a skateboarder. That skateboarder's a bit naff, isn't he? Okay, let's go with it. Let's go with the jogger. There she is. Okay, so we'll take the jogger as well. Okay, if we open both those files, so in the downloads, I've got running and roller girl. Okay, so open both of those, and these are really good. They've been, very carefully done to have inner lines and outer lines. So that's really clever. So we're only interested in the outer line because everything else is just silhouettes. So if we just click on that outer shape, Control C to copy it, and then we'll drop that into our finish one here. So Control V. Okay, that looks pretty good size wise, actually, I would say. So I think we'll leave that person whizzing around there, maybe over here a bit, give the space to move. If we want it a bit bigger, you hold the shift key and drag the corner, okay, so that you keep the correct proportions. Okay, these are line weight, stroke weight 2, so we'll make this stroke weight 2 as well, because she's in the same distance. Okay, we've got the other person now, so we've done the roller girl, close that. We've got woman running, so we don't need to see the inner, we just want the profile. Okay, now what I'll do is have her in the foreground. Okay, but getting the height is quite important. Okay, so let's say she stood here and her eye level would need to be round about halfway up the image. Okay, generally if you've taken your photograph with the camera level, the eye levels should be halfway up the image. So if you hold shift, okay, I think that's looking not too bad. If you imagine that person stood up, their eye level would be here, but that's tricky because that person's kind of leaning over doing the skating. Okay, we'll give this a line weight of 4, the same as this. Now I'll just do this again. What I'll do is I'll just draw a line across at this eye level. Okay, let's take a horizontal line at that eye level, and we'll put somebody in here and bring them up to this eye level, just to show you what happens. So I've got a man holding a baby here, man carrying a child. So let's use this. Let's just copy that. So I just want to show you this. It's the eye level thing's really so simple, but it works pretty much on any illustration you do. Okay, so we'll paste it in. Okay, we'll say he stood here. Let's bring him to the front a bit more. So he would be at the same as the level as the dais. Okay, oops, I moved the wrong way there, sorry. Oh, I'm doing it the wrong way around there. What I want to do is move this little square to the dais layer. So I want him to be in the same depth position as that. This one wants to be at dais as well. Okay, this one's okay on foreground. Okay, so here we go. If we scale him up now so that the middle of his head is in line with that line, he should look the right size. So remember to hold shift, eye level. Okay, take that away, bump up the line weight there to 2, and everybody kind of looks the right proportion. Dead easy. Just kind of remember that your eye level should be about halfway up the picture. Generally, it's very difficult to tell if you're exactly level with a camera. It's really difficult, but as long as it looks reasonably sensible, you'll get away with it. Okay, couple more minutes, guys. So let's say that's the finished article. This is the file that I'd like you to kind of submit. I'll just give you some comment on it. If you wanted to take this further and work on it, what we'd do here is reduce the artboard back down to the size of the photograph. So this is the kind of finishing off bit. Let's just hide the layers so I can see the artboard and the photo. Okay, so you do File, Document Setup, edit the artboard, and I'll bring it in on this corner, and it snaps to the corner of the photo quite happily. Okay, we'll drag this one, snap, on you go. All good. Okay, put the layers back on. Okay, and then if we go to File, Export, Export As. Okay, the only option that lets you use the artboard is PSD. Okay, so let's export it as the tracing complete. I'll just check that the file's not open already. It is. Let me just close this. Okay, so back to Illustrator. So tracing complete, use the artboard, export. Okay. Only takes a few seconds. Dunk. Okay, so we'll open that file. Okay, and you notice the layers are here as well, so it does kind of retain everything. Strangely though, the whole thing is bigger than it was originally. Not quite sure how that happens. Luckily it's bigger than smaller. So image size. Okay, the original photograph is 2736 wide. So what I'll do is just change this to 2736. That's the correct height, that's what it should be. That was the original photograph height of 3648. So I'll just click OK. Okay, but bear in mind this is not a vector file anymore, this is just dots. So if I zoom in, eventually we start to see that kind of thing. If we zoom in on the Illustrator one, it's sharp, sharp, sharp. Okay, and that's why, you know, vector graphics, you keep them as vector as long as you can before we have to end up being a raster file with all its dots and its kind of fuzziness. So if you're needing something kept large and crisp and clear, that's where things like Illustrator come into play.